Okay, thank you. Sorry, is it raining out there?
Yes, it started raining.
Fading away to
Thank
nothing.
you for being here. All right, so next on our agenda is the snowplow contract. And we were just like throwing it out there. I don't know who wants to go first in terms of.
Well, I'm gonna go first.
Okay.
I'm gonna disclose that I am friendly with Arbo. In that.
Work together.
Can I point of order? Are you gonna give us the results of your executive?
We didn't make any decisions.
And I guess, what was about?
Well, that's it's
that's
confidential. It's exec session. That's why it's not an open meeting.
I don't want to read that. Well, like executive meetings.
Yeah, but unless there's a decision to come that comes from that to be voted on open meeting, but we don't have one.
It isn't to be voted on, that's the results of the executive session.
No, not if it's personnel matters. It's confidential.
Aaron had to exclude from voting?
No, he just has to disclose that he has a relationship, just so that we're all being,
Disclose?
yeah.
I thought he said exclude.
Yeah.
no,
Just-
I
just,
can't hear.
yeah,
That's right.
just,
Everybody knows it, so.
just disclosing so that we're all being transparent.
So back to snowplow contract. You would like to speak on their behalf?
Well, I'll go for it.
Go for it.
John Knight picked up in, last week when you guys were without a plow contractor. I feel since that time, we've been nailed, bang, 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 bang. And we were a little short-handed, the first night. I thought we did, pretty good just to get through that. We did our whole crew back. I think we can do a real good job. We'd have to add some more equipment, which is, on. We have no problem doing whatever we need to do. And I felt the contract that Chad had was a reasonable contract. And I'd like to continue with that.
So I should mention, I don't know if you're aware, so going forward, the select board cannot approve more than a 1-year contract. After that, it has to go to extend the contract more than 1 year, has to go to a town meeting, town vote. So going forward, we discussed having a 1-year contract with a stipulation that extending that would have to go to town meeting. So just to be transparent, I guess. Great, thank you.
I'll go next.
Sure.
I've plowed the town here before for years. I get plenty of rigging and grader, bunch of pickups. I've done it before, so it's not like I couldn't do it again. So on off and on for 30 years.
How do you think the job was the last time you had the contract?
The last year I had it and I took care of it myself. That's good. Yep. I can't remember how many years we had it for, but my father had it. My father had it for 5 years.
Yeah.
Then I took it over. Yeah, that last year was a lot. I do Cambridge right now. I only get 1 or 2 calls a year on something. Other than that, I hardly ever get complaints.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When your contract ended, when you were doing it that last year.
Yep.
Did you not put in for the following?
Yeah.
You did.
I did not put one in.
You did not put one in. Okay. Any reason why you didn't put it in, or?
I was just tired of it at the time.
I'd like to add just a couple more things. Being a taxpayer in Monson, I own a couple of properties. I'd kind of like to see the contract go back more totally local, to something that contributes to the town, not only personally, but on a tax base also. Have more of a commitment to the community. I think if you're done here, you're out of here. I lived 7 months on the lake. Eventually we'll move up here full time. Once my wife decided taking care of the house. I think that's a bigger commitment than my enjoy.
I don't know. Monson.
I will start with Arvo just because I'll go in alphabetical order. Arvo and Zach. Arvo, what would you say? I know you've been plowing Blanchard. What would you say has been you've been doing that a couple of years, I think. Three. What would you say the biggest issue has been in that time? Have there been any issues and what have they been?
Well, I don't think there's really been any issue. I think, there's no secret to plowing snow. You need to get out when there's 2 or 3 inches. You can't wait for 6 or 8 inches or let the slush build up. I think Sue and Matt could probably tell you how Blanche. I'd like. Your food farm. I mean, I think they've done a pretty decent job.
Have there been any complaints or any concerns from the county?
Nope, and you can check that with Kyle Henderson. Nope, I haven't talked to him.
Okay.
It's been good.
Is that kind of the same question? You've been on Cambridge, correct?
Yep.
Any issues over there that
No.
you've had?
The first year I did had some issues, but they weren't putting enough salt in
their mix?
Yeah, a lot of shaded roads, but if that's where the way it's done good.
Any complaints? Like I saw that you're doing a good job, but any complaints?
You just get normal people that just want to call and complain.
Okay.
Yeah. You're gonna have that with every town. You don't get big shoulders plowing snow, you better do something different.
So I think our current contract calls for, is it 1.5 inches?
2 inches.
2 inches, okay, it used to be, I think.
And I think no more than 3.5 build up during a storm.
And I don't have like the pros and cons in front of me, or the prices, I should say. Listed. That was offers around that. So Zach, you were offering 221 and Arvo was 240. Any other questions?
Any comments from the public?
I can. Say what I think has been the problem since 2009. Is that nobody got out there in time.
Right.
And they roll the snow down, get packed on, and then they let it come off. This past winter was a perfect example of that. and on Monson has all east-west roads except one. We have one north-south road. And east-west roads are hard to get the snow off because the sun don't hit it.
Right.
North-south roads is the Stewart Road. That road would be bad when no other one is in town. Key to it is just like this past week. We didn't have that much snow. Well, they had snow on the snowstorm and they had to get out and plow, but they get out there and plowed it because it warmed up. And then it froze again, but they was right back to sand, which that hasn't happened for 7 years. They haven't been ahead of this school bus for 7 years.
You know, I was thinking the other day, the other meeting we had, we were talking about getting out there before the school buses. But actually, I don't know why it didn't dawn on me. Like if we have a bad, heavy snowstorm, school buses aren't coming out because school's canceled. But again, we have first responders that need to get out early in the morning.
Or at any given time.
Or any worker that has to get out there early. So, yeah, I think you're right on. That's
So I
something.
can relate to that because I had to have first responders this winter
Mm,
and an ambulance, and they could just barely get there because the road is so slow.
right. So,
And we had the ruts
yeah,
in front of
I see.
the, you know where the ruts were.
Right. So, yeah, I share your concerns, getting things done early in the day, in the morning. Was there another, Kathy? Did you?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I'd like to say that this past winter, and actually last winter also, we weren't getting it done as quickly as we thought we would. And Alvo's crew would come through, and they plowed beyond Blanchard and clear us out, which was nice. And then the road from there all the way to the center of Blanchard was good. And then going up the hill was pretty good. As soon as we hit the Monson line, it was packed solid and icy and not very good.
Okay, I want to say this isn't anything personal because I don't know you or your dad, but when you had that contract, that particular stretch, and I don't know if it was the last year you had it or your dad, it doesn't probably really matter, but I live right here in town, just down the street. And at the beginning of when the storm started hounding us, I couldn't get out of Garage Street. The snow was that high, it was so high, I couldn't get my car out. The North Guilford Road had been plowed, but it was like 2 or 3 days before anybody even thought about doing Garage Street. Granted, there's only 2 of us on the street, but I still should be able to get out to the main road.
Yeah.
And
And that's 2 days.
I traveled the Willimantic Road daily.
Yeah.
And sometimes that was really ugly. And again, nothing personal, and just that was the way it was.
Yep.
And, that's not much to look forward to.
I've got a thought as far as, contractors, and I understand being a plowing contractor, you got everybody pointing at you. And true, slings and arrows are shooting from everywhere. But contractor has to be able to respond to the people, knowing that we will take care of it, something like traffic. But we had an issue 7 years ago that really upset me because it was during hunting season, early. And one of our guys had gone to Guilford, and Guilford went up over the hill, just going down the North Guilford Road, where Turner's house used to be up there. And that was just glare on slick, we barely stayed in the road. And it was mentioned to the Herrick business, hey, you guys need to go, sand those roads. And it was, F them, I'm going hunting. And the response, well, that's pretty
I don't think I had 7 years ago.
Huh?
No, 7 years ago, I didn't have the contract, the whole thing.
I don't know if it's seven, I'd have to go look, I know where I was, but I have to look at my.
Yeah.
When I was up here, but it was, I know it was a hair contract, because the guy told me.
Yeah, it was 8 years ago. The
Eight?
last time I plowed, 8 years ago, yeah.
All right, I'll go with that, but still, I didn't like the attitude, it was just like, who's working for who here?
So, just to clarify, so are going forward, whoever is selected contractor, are contractors as our town employees, they report and are supervised by our town manager, so not by us. We oversee the contract, we approve it, but going forward, Elena would be the supervisor, so in terms of residents, input, complaints, compliments, it would go through the town office through Elena. And I know there, in the past, there's been, when things haven't been done on the roads properly, and the town office is closed, and correct me if I'm wrong here, the information was that we should call the sheriff's office.
Yeah, because the sheriff's office, well, anybody in this room can just contact me. But if it's somebody that doesn't feel comfortable contacting me, they can contact dispatch, and dispatch would call me and give me the concern, the problem, or whatever. That's ultimately how that goes. Is the road commissioner has
But
the job to
just for contractor information as well, it's the town manager that does the overseeing of that. Was there another question, comment?
I'll say something. I mean, I work for Zach. I work for the town. I plow for Zach. Bill Dealio plows for Zach. It looks like it'd be us two and another person up there plowing. We're out normally by 2 a.m. And everybody's got to remember, the town of Monson with two wheelers, it's 6 hours to make one round through the town of Monson. The plow it, sand it.
Somebody's gonna be first and somebody's gonna be last.
That's right.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that's what it, you know. Normally when I plowed it before, it was Willimantic. 7 mile loop by Brian's house is going to get plowed first.
Anything, I appreciate all the input. I think that's helpful.
When will this be decided?
We need to vote, and well, we were hoping tonight. How are you guys feeling? Any questions or?
I'm down with tonight, I just didn't know if I can vote.
So the reason that that Aaron had to say at the beginning that he's friends with Arvo is because we want to make sure there's no perceived conflict of interest in terms of voting, just for liability issues, right? So are you interested in voting?
Not to vote.
Okay, and so then we just have to decide, is that appropriate? I agree. I think, we're looking at the facts and the information that was provided, so I'm okay with that. Okay.
So I think.
We just,
Can I just make a quick comment?
yes.
We're a small town. We're friends with everybody in this town. I'm sure Aaron's no more a friend than Arvo than I am. Or anybody in
Well,
this
we do
room.
work together and stuff, so.
Yeah.
just like-
Exactly.
We're a small town. We're friends are our family.
Exactly.
That's what it is.
It's hard not to know
I-
everybody.
I would feel bad if Aaron couldn't vote because
Right.
he's a friend. Well, I'm a friend. So does that mean I can't vote? you know, just saying.
Right, and we just had to put that out there to be
Okay.
transparent
Yeah.
and make sure that everybody understood.
We're all friends, you know, we're all adults.
Pretty sure
I
I
hope-
was afraid of that, I think.
Yeah, right.
Alright. Just covering all, all branches legally here, just to, make sure we're okay. All right, I will entertain motion.
I do have one other question before we do that.
Sure.
Zach, it's my understanding that, when the previous contract with Monson ended, that it was not considered satisfactory. Are you aware of that?
There was a lot of discussion with the town manager at the time, can't remember his name, but.
Not sure. who's-
Yeah.
I think Daniel.
And then he
Daniel.
asked me if I'd do it again,
Okay,
and I refused to, I said no.
okay.
So, it couldn't have been that bad if he asked me to do it again.
Okay. Were there any other issues in Monson that came up in the 2 years that you plowed that, I have had I've had several people reach out with concerns that you would go back to Herrick because there were some issues the last time, according to them. I wasn't living here at the time, I don't know.
Yeah.
But when a citizen comes to me and asks me,
Right,
like, why would we rehire this company? I just want to do my due diligence, and I don't feel that I would be doing that. What were the big issues that, are you aware of any?
the biggest issue was the, road goes down to Elliottsville. That's one person that complained all the time. I don't think it's steady. Just when you look back to the complaints, it's one person all the time. It's like, is it really true, or is it just someone not really liking who the contractor is?
With that, Sue
Yeah.
and Jonathan, back when that happened, it was, everybody used to just call it. So I said, okay, fine, we'll put a complaint book out. You come in town office, you fill it out, you sign it, then it's a legitimate complaint. Because like Zach said, we had.
They used to have a paper on the desk.
Yes,
down
they used to
there,
be, Brian.
And it was there since 2009, and
It hasn't been there lately.
it was there, it hasn't been there lately, but it was there, and there was filled up 2 or 3 pages between the selectmen.
Right, but like I said, if someone just calls, I mean, I had a call on Blanchard Road.
Mhm.
I just got home, went back up and said it, the guy couldn't run in his tennis shoes. That's what he called us out for. I mean, if you can't come in the house and fill out a complaint, to me, it's not a legitimate
Well,
complaint.
they did.
But they had a thing for that, if someone called, they'd write it down.
Yeah.
If you can't come in there and sign that book, and it's an actual complaint that you can go back year to year, to me, that's not a legitimate complaint.
Or contact the town office and say.
Right.
We had 2 or 3 pages of
Yeah, I can say that, I live on Elliottsville Road, and I remember that year because I had just gotten on the select board, and, there were, I wanna say at least 2 residents that called me, that knew me and called me, because the road, at that time, like this year, had ice ruts in it, and going around that one curve was really kind of dangerous because you couldn't move over. So I remember that.
Yeah, I remember taking my grader down that road several times to get rid of it.
Yeah.
That was before they put the chip seal on the road.
Yeah,
Even in the summertime, it was rutted.
but I remember the ice ruts in it too. So, Yes.
Can I make one point?
Okay, go.
I'm going to leave now.
that's all right.
One of the issues that I fondly remember was town manager wasn't the one directing the show. Yeah, a select man that thought he could run everything. And he had every contract with this stuff. It was just, he shouldn't have been involved. It should have been the town manager doing it, not him. But
I remember that.
remember that we did have a contract.
That's why I mentioned it's the town manager that oversees that. So just, here's a question, I guess I'll just throw out. There is a $19,000 difference. And I'm just, we're tasked with overseeing town finances. So what is the difference in terms of what you can offer Arvo and what Zach can offer?
Well, I think, too, I mean, if it's, I'm looking at that as, is that long-term? Or is that a 1 year? Will knock 19,000 off that for 1 year? Or is that every year if it's a 3-year contract? Because we could do something, if it's a savings zone for a 3-year contract of 60,000. If we had a 6-year contract and $10,000 less, it'd still be saving 60,000 if we could have a longer contract.
We're just not able to offer as a select board a multiple year contract at this
Right,
time.
right.
Like I explained, it has to go to town meeting
Right.
to extend the contract.
So if it was less this 1 year, and the next year, after that, it could go anywhere.
Yeah.
I think probably every town has been in the situation where they have gone cheaper. And I'm not saying you shouldn't go cheaper. I'm not telling you how to do your job. I just think that sometimes going cheaper isn't always the best avenue, because in the long run, it may cost you more.
Right.
I think we've been in that situation before, years past, with plow contracts. And, yeah, we all, saving the town money is a good thing, but I think that shouldn't be the prime.
As we've seen for the last 3 years, paying more money doesn't necessarily guarantee that.
Exactly. Exactly. And, just because you're throwing more money at something, or trying to save 20 grand,
Right. And it's not the only factor that
Exactly.
we have to, consider. There's a multitude of things that go into the decision. So, but I just needed to ask that because that's.
And that's
Kind of
usually
big
what
one.
people, hey, how much is it gonna cost? That's always the first and foremost,
But
but
the quality and the,
exactly,
what we get out of it is important. Zach, would you also be interested in extending if things went well the first in 1 year?
Yeah.
A multiple year?
Town manager that I'd signed for 3 years for that price.
You're able to do that?
Yeah.
Okay. Good decision.
And you're kind of quiet before. Did you have anything?
I'm not gonna make a motion on it.
No, but did you have any questions or anything? Like, I know that you were not asking anything. I think had our discussion. There's anything you think could add?
What brought you to town to ask about a plow contract when we still had 2 years left on the existing contract?
I heard a lot of talk that They weren't happy what was going on. It was more central for me, as far as my crew. While in Cambridge, my mechanic lives up in Greenville. It's a long ride down when we have some issues. So that was my idea. So I said I'd ask him some questions if it's coming out, but I had no idea it was extended. I didn't know that. So,
No, it just wasn't even terminated yet.
right. So I had no clue. I just asked if it was coming up because I was interested. So. But whatever you guys decide, you guys obviously, I'm very friendly with Bible and John. We work together, so I'm not gonna get in a crapping contest to get a fun contract with guys in front of it, you know? So ultimately up to you guys.
No, I think, I don't want to speak for all of us, but looking for a contractor that's reliable, that can be out there early, stay on top of things, be professional, civil. I don't know what else.
Um,
I got another question for you.
Sure.
What do you have to decide tonight? You got it figured out for the rest of the plow year.
That's a good question.
They don't.
Yeah.
Make it a contract.
Oh, I see. Oh, all right, that's a good question.
Yeah, we still have snow coming, right?
So nice.
Snow and ice. Jonathan,
I think hearing from both of them alleviated some of the concerns that I had coming in. I'm not going to misrepresent that. Like the feedback that I got was not good. I like the idea of hiring someone with ties to the community. That it's a little bit more money, but I like the idea. I feel like, I personally hired Arvo in the past to do some work. I didn't disclose that because I didn't consider that a conflict of interest, but he was responsive to the work and it's not an easy decision but I mean, yeah, I mean, I would.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
Sure.
So if you decide tonight, what do you pick? Do they have to finish out the season?
That's a good question.
Because if that's the case, I can't do it because I still have a contract.
Right,
You know what I mean?
right. I hadn't thought of that.
I mean, I would imagine that, I don't know, we'd have to talk to the people involved, I suppose.
Yeah.
Normally, I'm in favor of you guys making a decision quick, because in the past, we've had trouble with pushing decisions off later and later and later.
You're right.
I don't think it's a necessarily bad thing to take another week and have another special meeting. I'm not opposed to you guys making the decision tonight, by all means. It'd be good for a change to jump on it and get it
I
done.
know, right.
Be ready.
We do have a budget committee meeting on Monday, and we logistically could meet right after that. I personally would like just some time to kind of digest all the feedback and information.
I don't need that time. I make a motion that we give the contract to Arvo. I'm comfortable with that. He has ties to the community, I think, and you can do with that what you want, but I don't think we need to take any more time with it. Arvo has ties to this community. He has a track record. That would be my motion.
Second. Are you gonna vote or?
I'll vote, yeah.
Okay, are you interested in making a second on that, or?
I would second that.
Okay.
So before you guys vote, do you have a list of what equipment's required for the contract?
Yeah, Elena, you had provided that to us before. Yeah.
Contract doesn't have to show proof of that, so.
I understand that, I'm just asking the question, someone's gonna spend money to buy trucks, they better be aware that they need 2 wheels to plow 10 months plus that goes for great.
Yeah.
No, the
Appropriate
Darbo's already
during
stated that he's already got
We-
everything
it's
picked out. and
discussion.
once His
Okay.
contract will happen.
So yeah, it's not.
Nobody's gonna buy trucks.
All right,
unless they
well,
get
thanks for you
a
guys' time.
contract.
Thank you.
You guys made your decision.
Thank you, sir. So getting back to, we have a second, but any further discussion amongst us? Motion. Those in favor? Arvo, I think you have it.
Thank you.
And Elena, you'll follow up with contract and all that, okay?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. On to miscellaneous.
So that is only a contract for 1 year, no matter what.
Yeah, legally, the select board is not allowed to approve multiple year contract. But like I said, it can go, be extended through a vote at a town meeting.
So that is something we could potentially bring up at the time.
Absolutely.
So do a good job the first year.
Yeah, we would have signed the 5-year. I mean, we were looking for long-term anyway.
Right.
That's what we did with Blanchard, we signed a 5-year. Has that always been a rule that was never a
You know,
Yeah, so I
What
actually read about it, reading through all this process and what we're supposed to do. I try to do everything by the book. So I read the manual, and in the manual it says technically the select board cannot authorize a 3-year contract or beyond a 1-year contract. How it's supposed to, how like we have certain warrants, that articles that we vote on every year. This would be another addition to those articles that would allow the select board to enter into longer term contracts. But the idea is that the select board cannot authorize a 3-year contract if they don't know if the town's going to approve 3 years worth of funds for this particular contract. And then the town would be in breach of contract because they couldn't appropriate the money for that contract.
Just a question then, I'm not suggesting this is what is done, but does that mean every year the select board could just approve a 1-year contract, never involve the town at all?
Well, the town would, this town would still have to vote to appropriate the money for it.
But as far as the contract itself, it could be done without a town-wide vote.
Right.
So it was done.
Until
1
someone
year.
tries to
Yes.
get that out.
Yes.
Again, I'm not suggesting that's what is done.
No,
I'm just
I
more curious.
and
Yeah.
I found the same information when I was researching for this. I was kind of looking at contract law, and it clearly does state in the state law that it's a 1-year contract. Now, I do think that we could have further discussion about, performance. With good performance, it rolls forward, and we do take it to town meeting. But it protects both the town and the contractor, really. I think. If you see a huge increase, look at fuel prices this week, or this month, like, it would allow for both, I think, protect you on both directions, so.
And so
annual town meetings in the summer.
July,
June.
June, sorry.
And the only reason that I'm asking, I don't want, one-year contract is we go out and buy a certain amount of equipment,
Right,
chances are we're gonna have a 4-year loan. Or a 3-year loan, you know, that's all. But if that, so here's my thought process, I don't even know if, like, sometimes I think backwards, but. So you given a 1-year contract, but if that went to the, town meeting this June, could they make that a 3-year contract this June?
How does it work?
Mhm. And yeah, so basically, and you could always put in the contract that like subject to town meeting approval could be extended. So that way, you know, you give it, depending on what happens at town meeting, you can extend it without having to make a new contract.
So the residents could just authorize the select board to enter into contract.
Yes.
Why is that in?
It just, I think it's one of those things that just got overlooked because it was just one of those things that the board voted on for so many years, and this is just the way we did it. And so until you read a manual that's 642 pages, you might miss some things.
Barrett Brothers had this town for 50 years.
Yeah.
Never went out to bid.
Yeah.
right.
That's
They
job
just-
security.
Yeah.
That's because they plowed the head selectmen's driveway.
Yes.
Oh, times do change, but Elena's on top of the legal stuff for us, so I appreciate that. All right, thank you, everybody, for the input that you've given. These decisions are always tough. Like we said, it's a small town, and yeah. All right, the next item was under miscellaneous, was the pump house. Go for it, Eric.
Okay, for those of you who aren't aware of what happened the other day, the old pump house station, the water was turned on and the valve froze and broke. Water was pouring out of the bank down by the playground and flooded the house. I did manage to get it pumped out with a couple pumps and somewhat isolated. The old valves didn't work. So I had to go get some parts the next day to throw an emergency cap on it. Just that small problem is gonna cost the town over a couple $1,000. That is very minute compared to what the town is gonna be liable for if those two lines aren't completely ended. Because that 10-inch line runs all the way down to Moosehead with an old cement asbestos pipe that if there is a shock wave that gets sent through there, whether somebody's shutting something off, turning something on, and that implodes, that's 10-inch pipe dumping water until Lake Egan's drained out. That pipe has been broken once before by an excavator. Brian can attest to how that went in a matter of minutes.
It did it right on the corner of Chapin Avenue. He hit it with the excavator even after we told him it was there. It broke pipe, 10-inch pipe. Water boiled up out of the thing and went right down Water Street, right into Diane Walton's cellar. She floated her washing machine. So.
This is something that both Brian and I have expressed concerns about to the town over the years. Nothing has been done for it. This is just a small glimpse. The only saving grace the other day was the fact that above the valve that split, That 10-inch pipe came up, elbowed out, and went out through the wall. If that would not have been on there, that would have been a full 10-inch pipe discharge.
Ka-ching, ka-ching.
So Aaron, is this estimated $2,000, you said temporary fix?
That is a temporary cap in the pump house. That's nothing to do with everything down below, whether it's the line going to Moosehead, the hydrants down there.
Is it,
This is all town though, not mud.
Mhm.
Right.
Just one.
Mud doesn't go
Mud
in
member. I just-
Yeah.
is there a solution to,
Fire department owns the hydrants.
Yeah.
No,
But they don't own the red pump in the building. Vinyls own that because they bought it from Moosehead. That one was Moosehead. The town's pump motor was that black one down there. And evidently somebody, because Aaron had the valves turned off, and I know he did because I was there and saw it. And because he was having trouble down at Moosehead, we had to shut it down. And I helped him out with it. So the valves was reopened. I don't know who done it, but somebody did.
does Moosehead have water now?
they do, because there's a bypass that goes around the pump house that Moosehead had to install a number of years ago.
They had to install it when they put sprinklers in the mill because they had to have they couldn't go through a pump.
Sure.
They had to have them constantly.
So what's the fix?
That's where it gets a little gray because obviously lawyers would have to get involved to find out what rights Lord Bonnie owns Moosehead now, what rights he has to that water line. If, from what I know, he has the rights to that line. Therefore, if something catastrophic happens with that line, I feel as though he should be responsible. But if it's something due to somebody in the town doing something, the blame is gonna end up on the town. So ultimately, what has to be done, that has to be figured out. And those two lines should be capped and permanently sealed.
Mm.
So it's illegal.
If Vivio knew that he had that liability hanging on his head, you don't think he wouldn't agree to terminate that thing?
I don't think he wants to because that's the only water supply in Moosehead.
It's down there.
Oh, does that make sense?
The potential,
Yeah.
To the attorney, yeah,
One bill
figure
is
that
worth
out.
everything, right?
Yeah, and then
no, the
we also
plumbing is gone in all the buildings. That
have to
warehouse
figure out
sprinkler system is frozen.
what
I
to
know
do
when
about the
when we were
hydrant.
doing the solar, ordinance, he called me and wanted to talk about that, but in that conversation, he expressed a desire to find industrial customers that would wanna rent and build down there at some point, so he has, ultimately, I think he would like to do something with it, and they would probably need water, so I could see why he'd have an investment and not shutting it down, for sure.
He does have town water now.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's cost money. This is free until something happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they had to put town water in because they were carrying drinking water from somebody's house down there for them, because they couldn't drink that water out of the lake. And so they had to have all their bathrooms hooked into town water. Because, and have potable water down there. So they paid for part of it we put the new line in clear to about just around the corner where the sign used to be. And then from there down. We tapped into the one on Water Street.
So I was just sidebar with Elena, so reaching out to the attorney sounds like a good first step to find out who does what, like you said. Anything else Elena, that
Just the hydrants, like what do we do about that?
What's more of a concern?
One, I'm not saying that it's not a concern. I'm just saying like
With 2 dry hydrants or washing out that whole half of town? You know, and I'm all for looking into grants to get the fire department working fire hydrants. But you gotta judge, you gotta see which is gonna be worse.
no, I'm not saying that. I was just making a comment that we need to think about that in the future.
When we put in the new water lines in Monson, 2005, we applied for grants to put them in. Well, the first round of negotiating and getting grants, we had 12-inch lines designed, put all over town with hydrants. The people in charge of the grants and so forth came back to us and said, the only way you're gonna get the money, and we had a price, $4.4 million for the water and the hydrants. They came back to us and said, there's no money available, and there isn't that much money available for Monson. The only way you're gonna get any money at all is to take the hydrants off the lines. So we took the hydrants out. And these things now are completely useless.
So those don't even work now?
They do. They're gravity fed, one of them's turned on, it doesn't shut off. They throw a valve on it, it freezes and it breaks every year. Sooner or later, the whole hydrant's gonna break and
Hydrants was put in there in 1941, I believe. But, yeah, one on Water Street, 2 on Water Street, 1 on Chapin Avenue, and 2 at Moosehead were. But that's because of this 10-inch line that goes around the pump house. I was on the fire department for almost 50 years. We always used the town's pump, because it went to most of the hydrants. We never done anything with Mooseheads. Even when we had a fire at Moosehead, we just used those hydrants, but we didn't turn that pump on.
well, this, yeah, sounds like something we need to stay on top of and see, first of all, I guess, what is what in terms of who does what.
who's responsible for
Yeah,
what.
who's responsible. All right. Next was the fire department report.
Oh yeah. So like I said, I just wanted to tell you what the cost of the steel ended up being. We haven't ordered it yet because I wanted to just make sure there wasn't any other places to check. We already checked 2 places. Oh, okay. So like I said, it's big enough to sit from one beam to the other so that the fire truck sitting in between is sitting on something in between the bars. And that will have to come out of the municipal building budget, which I think the budget has enough to absorb that. Mostly because of the electricity, you know, not paying that is really came into
Yeah.
the look on everybody's
Hopefully
face
Dawn
on
doesn't
the
get back to it
right.
soon.
But if you know closer to the end of the budget season, if it looks like it's getting close in the municipal budget, maybe we would take a few thousand out of the municipal building reserve to pay for that piece. But I didn't really think that we have an option
No.
for that.
What needs to be done, I didn't hear.
The engineer gave us a recommendation to put a piece of steel across the floor in the fire department so that it kind of like evenly distributes the weight across the beams instead of letting a tire go like sitting in between the beams where it's so rotted out down there.
Right.
So just putting a piece of steel to kind of help stabilize it a little bit. Yeah.
What was the estimate?
28 something.
2840, I think.
20, 40?
Yeah.
How large a piece of steel?
8 feet wide, 10 feet long, 3/4 inches thick.
Okay. And we talked about the height. I mean, there's still.
Oh, plenty.
Yeah.
Plenty. To move back towards the back of the truck anyway, so.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's like where the worst spot is like directly under where the loader sits, pretty much is the worst.
You lose everything. Yeah.
Well, we can fire station, we can repurpose that sheet of steel for something.
Yeah.
Another company covers over $3,500 for the same piece of steel.
Seems like a cheap temporary stuff. Yeah.
Well, that's what I
Compared
was.
to the risk.
Compared to having an engineer actually, like, my first inclination was to ask if we have an engineering report, but of course we don't, because he hasn't done, because if he does the
Right.
actual work to figure it out, then
Yeah.
he condemns
The
the whole
floor is
floor.
gone,
Then we're in a whole
Which we
different.
don't want to do, so I'm all for it.
Okay.
right? Yeah. What's the next step in terms of do you need like to approve this or?
No, I just didn't want you guys to sit down to sign bills and see something for, you know, a couple $1,000s and not know what it was or where it came from or anything like
You don't
that.
need us to vote on
No,
this? Okay.
just more FYI.
I talked to a guy that does a lot of our welding, and he said he wouldn't do 2 pieces. He said if it's a solid piece, 8 feet wide, he said it's gonna give you more
Yeah, right.
support, and one side might go and the other side doesn't.
Okay.
So that's why we went 8 feet wide.
And in terms of shipping and installation, this is all included?
They're gonna drop it out here. We'll figure something out.
Oh, God.
We'll figure out,
heard
get it
about
off the truck and in.
I heard about it today because John called for a piece of steel and he was like, like Monson ordering a 3/4 inch piece of plate steel, because he called over and
He
to
called
order
Brown-
steel and they were
Brown.
like, he asked for a delivery and they were like, no, we're not going in. Wait a second. You have a piece
I
of-"
haven't ordered it yet.
No, but they told him if that order got
Was it through
placed-
Brown Steel?
Yeah.
See, Brown Steel's over almost $1,500 more.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
Then-
really?
Ah.
Then
So
Bangor
you're getting it
City.
from Bangor?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And one company I called, they wouldn't cut a 20-foot sheet. And it was over $6,000, that 20-foot long sheet.
Totally.
But you have a plan how you're gonna get it in?
Yeah, in town, Bucklow's got forks.
Okay.
So we'll
Right.
clean the floor real good and slide it in and then put it where we're gonna do with it. It's not gonna move once you set it on the floor.
Right.
Right.
How heavy is this?
Almost 3,000 pounds.
Yeah.
They're gonna work with Steve.
Hmm. Yeah.
All right. Sounds like a plan.
Hmm.
Fingers crossed. All right, and then next up is the fire truck.
Hmm.
So I, bunch of us been talking, the truck that's the 1990 truck that's downstairs. The tank is gonna have to be replaced at some point.
It's the one we just patched. The one
Right, we patched it.
that was leaking
now.
not too long ago.
And to replace that tank with a poly tank in that truck's $50,000. So Bob, that's on the fire department, my EMS director, was an assistant chief from Wiscasset. Wiscasset has a truck that's up for bid right now. That is 3 years newer, bigger pump. And it's a 6-man cab, so it saves us from having to take 2 vehicles. And we would like to bid $10,000 on that and sell that truck.
How much do you think you might get for it?
I don't know, I wasn't sure what the other trucks, when they told me $3,000 for scrap metal on that. I put it up online and they offered us $6,500.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is
What's
that
a
what
new
it
one
is?
cost?
A new truck, anywhere between 6 and,
I mean, it's the same ballpark as.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah,
another
'cause
engine, it just,
it's the other engine, so this would be our backup engine.
in our forest unit, because that's all we use, pretty much use this for, is the forest unit, or if we have to hook to a dry hydrant to pump to our main engine or fill tankers. This truck that we're talking about would give us capacity to take that truck with one truck instead of a bunch of vehicles going. There'd be enough crew in it. It's a top mount pump,
Where are you gonna put it?
it'll fit downstairs.
We would be getting rid of the other
We'll be
one.
getting rid of this one and put a new one underneath it. It'll fit in this bed.
Yeah.
We measured everything and all that.
Many years ago, I had a gas tank that had a hole. And the guy repaired it for me. He lined that tank with this stuff. Looks like liquid rubber. But he lined the gas tank with his machine. And why can't you line a water?
Because one, it's already been patched, and 2, you have to have that done by an NFPA certified person.
Of what done?
Anything to do with the truck. We can't make fittings for them anymore, we can't just have it take.
You hire someone to line the tank.
Correct, but it has to be someone that's approved to work on fire trucks.
Yeah, there must be somebody.
Yeah, so the idea
It's
is
still
that,
gonna be, it's still gonna be way over $10,000 to line a tank.
so the idea is that, so they got this 6,500 from the previous truck that they already sold. And so like, that would leave, what, 3,500? And so like, if they sold the truck downstairs for 3,500 plus, those two, it
Cancel each other.
would cancel out the bid. And then while we aren't getting super ahead of the game, we're still getting ahead of the game a little bit by getting a truck that's a couple years newer, in better condition. The tank is in better condition, and so maybe fights off the need for a newer truck
Or more money.
or more money.
Chuck, have you been down there to see it?
I haven't, but like I said, Bob works down there, he's, he sent me a video of it. We've looked at it.
He's gotten this other equipment as it were.
Yeah.
Lines on it.
So right now,
Well, correct.
what's the holdup to using the truck that's down
Nothing, we're using it if we have to.
there? You know?
Yeah.
Just moved out of that garage.
We used it last summer. 3 or 4 times.
Okay, how much money's gonna have to get put into this truck? Once we get it, as far as changing decals,
That's
adding everything to it,
pretty much the decals.
because that other truck was supposed to be ready to go as soon as we got it. and it
Yeah,
was
but any
not
truck
done
you
up.
buy,
Cost
even
us
if,
money.
even if you buy a brand new truck, they're not set up for what we need.
But that's something that we need to consider before we just say, oh yeah, this is a heck of a deal, and then, okay, well, this deal ain't so good anymore, because we just had to spend 10-15 grand.
99% of the stuff that's on the truck downstairs will go fit on the snow.
What, this one down here, you patched the tank, so it is workable.
For now, till
Yeah.
it totally lets go, and then when the tank lets go.
Yeah.
They don't make steel tanks no more.
How much did I'm talking more decaling?
If I had to roughly guess, like I said, without measuring everything. $9.
I guess
That, this new one's an automatic, so. Not that this one's hard to drive, like I said, I'm different, I drive truck every day, so it's a little different.
Sounds like something to investigate, I guess, and
The only problem is they're only accepting bids until April 1st.
April 1st.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have put it on a special town,
Correct.
select board meeting, because,
What is today?
right,
Oh, the 26th already.
yeah.
So pretty much if, Bob said pretty much if we want it, that he just needs to make a phone call.
Your
He
recommendation?
designed the truck, so.
I mean, in some ways, to me, it's extending the life of a truck for only $10,000, which $10,000 seems like a lot of money, but when you're talking about a whole fire truck, it's not. But then, like Aaron pointed out, depending on what it might need, then I think like we don't know.
And then what's going on with this tanker that we're putting in the grant for? What do we do when we get that? If we get that.
No, that I wouldn't put a grant until we get a new station, so.
The grant? You said you're doing the grant.
I will do a grant, but it's gonna take 3 years to get a truck if we get awarded it.
Is it reasonable to, again, we have a budget committee meeting on Monday, and I know today's Thursday, to find out more about the truck by then in terms of anything it might need?
I can,
Mileage, hours,
36,000.
what's the maintenance logs on it?
So might be able to get those, but
When's the first?
next Wednesday.
Tuesday,
Wednesday.
Tuesday, Wednesday, something like that.
But I don't feel comfortable just making a last minute decision with town's money without having time to think about it, discuss it. See the facts.
So you guys can approve that amount of money, so that's why we brought it up. I didn't realize that we only had till the 1st until yesterday. So.
It sounds like if we can find out more information about it by then. And then if we need to meet real quickly on Monday, it's possible. Does that sound like a plan?
Guess so.
Okay.
I said the only reason I brought it up is the guy that designed it's on the spot, so
Right.
they got a brand new truck. So they put it up to bid.
I like when other towns get new trucks and get their hand-me-downs. Want to make sure that.
And like I said, $10,000 is nothing.
Yeah.
Not even an half that.
Thank you, Chuck. Appreciate it. Last thing was deputy CEO.
Oh, I forgot I even put that on
I
there.
know, you look tired.
So one of the things that we talked about at the last board meeting, or the last two actually, was about the CEO issue and not being able to issue a notice of violation on a particular case. And Mr. Turner has agreed to be deputy CEO for this particular case, as advised by the attorney to have a deputy CEO take over that particular
That
case.
sounds like a good plan. Thank you.
I hope the rate of pay is really high.
If I'm a deputy CEO, I can help her with stuff and people can't tell me that I don't have anything to do with it.
Right.
And she asked me to help her, so
Is that, there's no conflict there, is there with planning board?
no,
Like, there wouldn't be,
it would be if I was CEO. Deputy.
but that's not.
He's also, you're also an alternate,
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
also no.
which
forgot
I don't know if
that.
that matters, but I mean, common sense says it ought to.
I just wanted to make sure there was no,
Yeah, I don't think.
no conflict.
That's a good point. So we need to do like a.
So you, normally I would have an oath for you to sign, but Marty and Jade were not in today, so I
Okay.
didn't have time to make one. But if you make the motion, I'll have one and you guys can
On
sign it
Monday.
whenever you want, yeah.
I'll make a motion. We
To
make
appoint.
Brian as deputy CEO.
Oh, I
love it.
second that. Any other discussion?
You sure you really want it?
I'll try it for a while.
All right, all in favor? That was a no-brainer.
Well, that eliminates.
Grumpy advice.
Okay.
All right, I think we're good. Adjournment, motion for adjournment.
Yeah, I'll make one.
I will second that. All in favor? I think we're all good.
What time is it?
7:49. Thank you all.
You can stop by and sign that, or you'll have it.
I'll just bring it on Monday.
Are these your gloves?
Yeah, we fix all the stuff.
Oh, well, yep.